We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters. Welcome to This Song Is Yours, the podcast where we explore the art of songwriting, celebrate incredible artists, and dive deep into the stories behind their music. I'm your host, Simon Fink, and as always, thank you for joining us. Our guests today on the podcast are indie rock band Mountjoy. The indie folk five-piece, originally from Philadelphia, have had a massive few years following their 2022 album, Orange Blood. Over the past few years, they've sold out iconic venues like Madison Square Gardens and Red Rocks Amphitheatre. They've toured alongside the Lumineers, and they've collaborated with artists including Maren Morris. Today, the band return with their fourth studio album titled Hope We Have Fun, a brilliant addition to their discography that captures the raw and live energy that's become a hallmark of their shows. In this episode today, we're chatting with frontman Matt Quinn about the making of this record and how success can apply a kind of creative pressure that's ultimately motivating. We discuss the band's collaborative songwriting dynamic, the story behind their track with Gigi Perez, and what it's like preparing to bring these songs on the road. We even get into whether an Australian tour might finally be on the cards for the band. Now we want to say a massive thank you to Dave for his help with today's episode and remind everyone that Mountjoy's brand new album, Hope We Have Fun, is out now. You'll find links in the show notes on where you can stream the record, follow the band on tour, and keep up with them online. And while you're in the show notes, please make sure you're following us across all of our socials and subscribed to this very podcast. We are dropping extra episodes all throughout the month of June, so subscribing means that you won't miss a thing. Now let's get into it. Here is our conversation with Matt Quinn from Mountjoy. And I'll tell you everything I ever learned about life is that Lucy's a badass and Lucy's right. Please welcome to This Song Is Yours, Matt Quinn from Mountjoy. Matt, hello, sir. How are we?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming to join us on the podcast and have a chat about a brand new Mountjoy record that is out now for fans to enjoy. It is called Hope We Have Fun. Firstly, congratulations, sir, on this record. How are you and the band feeling with it now being out in the world?
We're really excited. Kind of like the worst part of making an album is the months between it being finished and people getting to hear it. So this is an exciting time now that people are able to listen to it.
It is something that we've discussed with a few artists before where it's this very kind of, it's an interesting time because it's essentially you've put tools down and you're just kind of sitting idly until you're able to either promote it, tour it, all the kind of fun stuff that comes with it. I imagine that during this time, do you find yourself not trying to distance yourself from the work or from music, but do you stay involved in a kind of creative mindset, or do you almost go and explore what life has to offer while you're waiting for it to come back up?
Yeah, for me, I think I'm the latter. I'm trying to I don't know, for us anyway, with touring, we tour a lot. So making an album and touring and doing all that stuff at the same time is intense. And I think just finishing the album is a moment where you can kind of just go be a human being and just reset, which I think honestly, the best art from us as a band and from me too is coming from citizens of the world who love to make music, not just industrial musicians who are constantly pumping out new tunes and factory-made music sort of vibe. So I think just getting to live our lives a little bit and step back. Obviously, I love just playing guitar. That's what got me here. I'm still sitting on the couch and strumming along, but I'm not trying to make a Mountjoy song. I'm just, if something pops in that I think is interesting while I'm strumming along, then that's great. But I'm just sort of relaxing.
What I kind of love about this new record is that I think it's almost palpable, the fact that you can hear, I think, the enjoyment that yourself and the band are having making the record, which I think doesn't come across in every record for a band, I think that sometimes there's an element of like, you know, carefree nature or whatever it may be. But I think on this new record, I know that you guys have had a massive few years, and obviously there's somewhat kind of reveling or enjoying that success. But it sounds like for this new one that you really did enjoy, I guess, the labor of making it and kind of being able to live in it and put it. There's a certain energy to it almost.
Yeah, I just think it's nice of you to say. I think we are aiming for that. I think like for us, the moment, I mean, like using the word fun when our album is called "Hope We Have Fun" feels wrong, but like or cliche or something. But I think the moment like we stop having fun making music together, it's like that's kind of it. You know, that would be the sign to hang it up. So we're like, you know, we feel super fortunate to like be in this spot where we get to like make music for all these people and stuff like that. So we do like intentionally try to remind ourselves to like have fun and to have a couple songs on each album that are just like, you know, I think Pink Lady on this album is just like, let's just make a song that is mostly about nothing and it's just us having fun and you know, the meaning will either come or it won't. You know, that song was us like making fun of a crazy bus driver that we had and imagining that his wife was leaving him on a motorcycle. You know, just don't take ourselves too seriously kind of thing. And then, you know, hopefully we have some poignant moments, you know, here and there on the album. But like at the end of the day, I think we're trying to like, if our music is fun to make, then people will have fun listening to it, hopefully.
I would very much agree with that sentiment. And I think that it has, well, it's definitely worked for the band. I know that the success that the band has seen over the last number of years, I think this is the fourth record from the band, so you're not exactly new to the game anymore, but obviously across the last 10 years, I think, you've built up quite a strong following, and I think that, yeah, the last few years have seen you, and please correct me if I get any of these wrong, I think sold out Madison Square Garden, sold out Red Rocks in Colorado, have seen just, you know, more and more people get on board with the band, which I think is fantastic, and it's definitely well-deserved. So firstly, congratulations on that. Is there any thought of when you start to see the crowds get bigger and more people enjoying your music, is there any thought of that when you are going into the studio, almost like not the pressure of, you know, fame or success, but does that ever play into that creative process, or is it just something that's so detached altogether?
Yeah, you know, I think like I wish I could lie and be like, you know, we don't feel any amount of pressure and we're, you know, just doing it to do it. But I think it's there. Mm-hmm. Like, I think you're just human nature. You're aware that like, oh, like now there's more people who are interested in what we're doing. But I think we've like this album, it feels like we're playing with house money even more than ever kind of thing is the thing we at least tell ourselves. You know, where it's like, we don't have like, you know, we've had some big songs, but we're not like, I don't know why I always use her as an example, but I always say we're not Dua Lipa, you know, like we're not, we don't have multiple smash international pop hits. That's not what we're hunting for in the studio. Obviously, if one of our songs, you know, became that by sort of force of nature, then that'd be amazing. But we don't need that. And I think we kind of tell ourselves that like ultimately what's gotten us here is just having fun and making songs that we think are cool. And, you know, and I think we try to keep it as simple as that. But I think you know, anyone would be lying if it's, you don't feel there's a lot riding on it for us in some respects in terms of like, I don't know, like you want to keep this thing going, you know? And I think that definitely crosses your mind. And what does it mean for people's families? And it's become a job. It becomes this whole other thing. But I think the thing is that when we get together, there is just this thing that we do, you know, and I think that it takes us sometimes a little bit to almost crack the tightness. Sometimes I would say, you know, you can feel people kind of thinking about that stuff or like thinking too hard about their choices musically. And then, you know, you just need to jam for a little bit and maybe take a small hit of weed or drink a beer or whatever it is. And sometimes you can kind of like push past the, you know, the ego stuff, really.
Yeah, 100%. I think sometimes not necessarily nerves, but it is like ego, or it's almost like your own self gets in the way of you being the best of what you can do creatively because of whatever kind of hang up that it may be. So I think, as you said, whatever kind of tool you need to utilize to push past that, I think that is definitely a good recommendation. I know that on this record, there's some collaborations, which I'm not certain. I kind of went back and had a quick look. Has there been much work with other artists before? I think there's a single with Maren Morris, and on this record we've got Nathaniel Rateliff and Gigi Perez, but in previous records, have you had many guests?
We've done some like collaborations with other artists, but I don't make sure I don't leave anybody out. We've had a feature on our second album, an amazing singer, Liz Weiss, but other than that, I think this is our first, features, at least in a while, at least on our own album. And yeah, both amazing artists, and super fortunate to have them on the album.
How did they kind of come about? Was it when you in the studio with the band and kind of work on these things, is it that you can kind of hear that there might be another voice that's suitable for, or like another, when I say voice, maybe like internally in the song, not necessarily their voice, or is it just, I guess, through conversation? What's the process of having someone like Nathaniel or Gigi kind of be on the record?
Each are a little bit different. The Nathaniel situation was just, we got to know Nathaniel a little bit over the last album cycle touring. We opened a show for him in Vancouver and got to know him, and then we opened, I don't know why I'm pointing over here, it wasn't over here, but we played a show with him in Denver, which is his hometown, and yeah, just like got to talking with him and really look up to him, and kind of had a song that felt like he could help get over the finish line. And yeah, fortunately there was enough of a friendship there that he jumped on board. And yeah, I mean, he's just, to me, like with guitar players, sometimes you can like hear a guitar part and know which guitar player it is. It kind of has like a singular tone. To me, he's got that with singing voice and just his sort of swagger and his tone of voice. It's really singular, and I think whenever his voice is on a track, it's going to elevate it. So, and that's the case here. And he really helped. He's such a professional songwriter. He helped get this song over the line, and yeah, he's really incredible. I totally look up to him, and we're super fortunate to have him. And then Gigi, I had never done like a writing room or anything like that, but I got invited to this camp, and it was just kind of like a hang. It was actually at Ben Lovett, who is in Mumford & Sons, has like a beautiful home in upstate New York somewhere, and he just had a bunch of artists out, kind of like a hang and make songs if you want to make songs kind of thing. And the first thing I did, I'd never met Gigi. I was in a room with her, and within like 2 hours we had this song, and I was blown away by her. I'm like an idiot. I didn't know about Sailor Song. I quickly, after the fact, was like, oh my God, no wonder she's like a star. But I was, in a way, we've talked about it, Gigi and I, since, like, in a way, I think she didn't know who I was. I didn't know who she was. It was just like, oh, this person's nice. Like, let's make a song together. And there was no pretense in terms of like, whether it was going to be a song for another artist or whether it was going to be for her or for Mountjoy. We were just like, hey, let's just make a song. And I had an idea from something that I actually had hoped to get on the previous Mountjoy record, and it had never stuck. And I think, kind of playing around with that, and she, brought this her own incredible ideas, and, just has an incredible singing voice. And yeah, it was just a cool experience for me. I'm sure that the rest of them won't go that way, where you instantly make something that you love and goes on your album. But yeah, just a stroke of luck there. And there were other amazingly talented people there. Joe P., who's an artist here in the States, was in the room and played drums, and French Connection, which is sort of like a fun Johnny Greenwood slide synth situation, which sounds so cool on the record. And then Rob Bissell produced it. He was in the room. He did like all the SZA stuff last year, and is just an incredible producer. So it was a pretty awesome room to be in. I think the engineer I forget his last name. His name is Lance, but I think he's actually from, I know that these are different places, but he's from New Zealand. He's a Kiwi and did like Frank Ocean stuff. So there were just like a bunch of really cool people in the room. And Amelia from Sylvan Esso is doing some of those backing vocals. So It was super cool. And then, once we kind of circled that, like, oh, this is like gonna maybe fit on the Mount Joy record, we brought in Jackie and Sam, Michael and Satiri, who are the members of Mount Joy, and they kind of just put their touch on it. And I think that really is what ultimately makes a Mount Joy song. And yeah, we're super pumped on that song too.
I kind of love that. What a powerful, crazy kind of room.
Yeah, the Avengers came together for that one. So pretty cool. Never thought I'd be a part of anything like it.
That's wild. That's so cool. There was another track I was hoping I might very quickly talk about, if I may be so bold to kind of indulge. There was one track near the tail end of the record that I love called You Are Who She Loves, which was
I'm so glad you like that one.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous kind of very intimate track. Right near the end, I was wondering whether you might kind of be able to tell us a little bit about this song, maybe where it came from or the catalyst of how it made it onto the record.
Yeah, I had this sort of meditation type thing, like sometimes, and honestly, ties in with what we just talked about, where I'll just have kind of a part of a song, can't quite figure out how it becomes a full song, or maybe it needs a verse and I can't find a verse melody or something, but I love a part. And I had this You Are Who She Loves thing that I would play almost as like a little meditative thing. Really the story is just, someone I know, to hide their identity. I'll just say that. Someone I know just going through a really difficult time in their life, and nothing kind of sticking, the job situation's not working out and can't get, just stuck in the mud, but has an amazing partner in life who is kind of standing by them. And I just sort of love the idea of like a mantra of like, you can have nothing, but if you have someone, you kind of have enough. And so that was really it. I just kind of had this thing. And every time I would try to add like lyrics to it, it just kind of sounded trite and like kind of cheesy. And it was hard to not sound cheesy with the You Are Who She Loves chorus. So I thought about like, well, what if we just kind of had this instrumental sound bath kind of thing that just sort of arrives at that meditative moment. And Jake Weinberg, who produced that, just did a great job of like kind of making it feel like a sound bath and sort of a meditative moment on the record. And Sam had a great guitar part on that, and Jackie came up with a really beautiful minimalistic piano part. And yeah, I think I really, really like that one. I'm glad you picked that out.
I think the word that you've used, meditative, is like a perfect kind of descriptor for it, because it is kind of, as I can imagine, trying to write something that doesn't come across as saccharine or too cheesy is difficult when you're trying to get that pure distilled thought. And it is, I just thought it was beautifully done. So thank you for kind of indulging me on that. I do appreciate it. I was wondering, Matt, with having a quick look online, I think fans will be able to see Mount Joy are spending quite a lot of time on the road this year. I think from May until I think it was late September, you're kind of on the road pretty intensely. Wondering whether there's a certain track off the record that you're looking forward to playing live.
Yeah, we played a couple shows now, before the album came out. And Pink Lady is just a jam. It just really lends itself live to be extended a little bit. And yeah, there's just so much joy in that song. And there's a few, but that one I think comes to mind because I think you're going to get to see sort of the best of Mount Joy, which is, there's one thing to make these studio records, but I think we're a band you kind of have to come see live. We've got excellent players. I like to think I'm a decent songwriter, but I think to get the full picture, you've got to see the people that really bring the songs to life, which is everyone else in the band is truly world-class players. And I think Pink Lady is a song that lets that shine.
Love that. Very, very excited to kind of see that. It does kind of lead me to the next question, which is for those Australian fans who maybe want to be able to revel in that and see the band live, is there any chance that maybe this year, maybe next year, we might get the opportunity to see you guys down here?
I'm hearing, I don't know what's true and what's not, but I'm hearing that there's a very good chance that in early 2026, Mountjoy will be making its maiden Australian voyage.
Fantastic. That is very exciting to hear.
That was going to be sending us, but we'll probably take an airplane, and we're looking forward to that.
We'll look very, very excited to kind of see those dates when they are announced and put out into the world, and very much looking forward to those shows. Matt, we usually kind of wrap things up asking our guests what they're currently listening to. For yourself, is there anything that's on high rotation at the moment?
That's a good question. You know what? One of the guys that was at the writing camp that I got to meet, his name is Leif Volbeck, and he's an excellent songwriter, Canadian songwriter, and he just put out a great cover of "Take It to the Limit," just the Eagles cut, him and Angie McMahon, and that's just been stuck in my head lately. It's a really amazing rendition, and he's a super talented guy. So go down that rabbit hole.
I know what track you're talking about, Angie McMahon, a fellow Australian, but yeah, love that cover. So fantastic choice. Absolutely love that. Thank you very much. And thank you very much, Matt, for coming and chat with us on the podcast. Super excited for people to hear this new Mountjoy record. It is called Hope We Have Fun. It's out right now, and we'll have links in the show notes for people to purchase it, follow you on socials, eagerly await those Australian dates. But yeah, thank you so much again for coming to have a chat.
Thank you for having me, Simon. Appreciate it.